way up. We got like 5 more than that? Nope. No, it's gotta be on
5 more minutes.
It's gotta wait. It's on your time. Wow, that's all. This would be an active time. Perfect. Use that.
I'll leave that with them.
We gotta put beer. We gotta put
All right.
Move it over.
Looks like a pee-wee. Huh?
Test. Oh, I got to lean down into it.
Way up.
You can hear me.
Above that button. No.
Test. See, I'm just going to leave it over here, and I'm just going to look this way.
You gotta look that way. Seriously. Pick up.
Yeah.
So if I cough. All right. Do I need to bang the gavel for this one, sir? Public hearing? I need to bang the gavel for public hearing.
Yeah, boy, we got 3 minutes.
Man, I want to.
Looks studious. Get on Facebook and get more people.
Killing me, man. Killing me with this. Get better mics. This looks.
Why don't we have the ones that sit in here?
It wasn't picking up enough.
We actually had a pink
I want the one like Donald Trump has, man. He
Those
can
are less-
sneeze.
That one's less good because then it blocks your whole face. They can't even see you.
I don't have any feed on my monitor.
Is that not on?
It's on.
I have a spare monitor if we want to replace the one with that. There you go.
It's on, but it's just not.
Is it on now? I can't see it from here.
Should I? It's not on now. Now it's on.
I'm on.
Please hold.
Please work.
There we go.
Your business.
That's all right. Ready? I'd like to call the public hearing to order. We have a public hearing regarding to receive information on the Blue Granite comments. Anybody wishing to speak to us, please sign the pad in the back. I guess they're finishing up. This is a public hearing regarding the Blue Granite sewer. You got the sheet?
Sheet's gonna be for the agenda items.
Okay.
Here, we're just gonna do one at a time.
Okay. I'd invite y'all to come up to the podium one at a time. There's a 3-minute time limit on that. We will have you look at the timer on front of you and give us your name and your address, if you will, or where you live at in the town limits, and we'll be glad to hear your comments at this point. So anybody willing to speak, please come up to the podium.
I used to be a preacher, so how much time do I have?
1 minute. What's your name, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Patrick Endicott, and I live at 136 Park Place Drive. And I'm glad to be here to speak to the mayor, the council, and the fellow citizens of Irmo and customers of Blue Granite. And a sewer system is extremely important, on the same importance as the police department, fire department, emergency medical department, because if the sewer system were to fail, and say they failed all across America, then America would be driven into the dark ages of bubonic plague and who knows what else. It's extremely important. They do a very important job, and sometimes they don't get the credit for what they do because they're hidden. You don't see what they're doing. However, in this particular case, I think they have exceeded what they should be doing. And as a monopoly and as something that is virtually owned by the citizens, not by Blue Granite, the citizens of Irmo are the real owners. And everything that Blue Granite does should be open as if we were running it, not them. And I don't see where $85 a month is justified when it's $65. It's not justified either, because it's way more than what we pay for water. And that's about all I got to say. They can be nice people, and I appreciate when the right people are talking to them, they can be real good. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brenda McLean. I live at 137 Sunning Road. I'll make this real quick. So from the last meeting, I went home. I've got such a loud voice. I'm scared I'm screaming at this thing. I went home and did a little bit of research, very brief, on this Blue Granite company. Blue Granite is under Cortex Group of Companies, who is under British Columbia Investment Management Group, and who they are is a pension fund manager. They're basically managing pension funds. They need money. It is a capital reserve for insurance. They need money for that. They generate income for trust funds. They need money for that. I also happened to come across, in August of this year, they recently hired as their COO. I'm pulling it up. The Cortex Group of Companies today announced, well, this was back in August, Catherine Heigl was appointed the Executive VP and the COO of Cortex. Who is Catherine? Hold on a second. I'm just scrolling. She was the director of the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, DHEC, here in South Carolina. She was also received her degree from the University of South Carolina. So she's definitely associated with what's all going on here. But who knows who? I don't know who she knows, who knows her, who's making backdoor deals, what in the world is going on. But what's happening is now the town of Irmo is in their sight. And what's going to happen is if we fall into their hands, this town will look weak. Mr. Jake, you will look weak as the town attorney for not fighting for us. And Mr. Walker, you'll look weak because we would have fallen into their hands so they need money for all these things that they got going on. We, the taxpayers, we, the people, will be the ones to give them out of our hard-earned pocket our money. We know this because we do research. We don't have confirmation. We don't have evidence, but we have brains and we can put two and two together. And if we fall into their hands, what will be next? Town of Irmo, they're weak. We need some money. Let's go out to the town of Irmo. Let's attack their plants. I don't know.
Thank you.
How's everybody doing tonight? If you don't mind, I got a couple pictures. Is it okay to walk up and let you see?
Give it to Bob. Give it to him.
My name is Vince Vaccaro, and I'm in here in support for my mother-in-law who lives in the Stonegate subdivision. I'm sure the council is aware that Blue Granite Water Company changed their name from Carolina Water Services earlier this year. However, nothing in the form of goods and services has changed on how they provide water to the families in the town of Irmo. I would like to note an article from the state newspaper back on March 12, 2019 that stated DHEC has filed more than 25 cases in the last 20 years against Carolina Water Services. DHEC issued little to no fines to Carolina Water Services over those 25 cases, and in the last 7 years, 6 cases where fines should have been assessed, DHEC and Carolina Water Services agreed the company would fix issues to avoid the fines. That was DHEC's statement, was they'd rather be in support instead of taking money from the company reinvest it to fix issues. In October of 2017, WIS Television did a report on how bad the water quality was in the Stonegate subdivision. The Stonegate subdivision has very old and aging equipment that should have been replaced years ago. It is evident by the pictures that I've provided to you today that nothing has been fixed and the quality of the water is not good. Hopefully you are able to take a good look at how nasty that water quality is. These pictures were taken on December 3rd, 2019 from a home in the Stonegate subdivision, and it is the tap water straight from the faucet. This incident happened approximately at 12 noon and went on and off for 3 days. Several neighbors called Blue Granite, where the operator stated no one else has reported the issue and someone would be out to your home to look at the water, which obviously was not the case because several of those neighbors, not just one, but again several, posted on the Nextdoor app for Stonegate that no one ever showed up. Several hours later, and then the following day, several neighbors did get together and talk about it. The company is proposing a 56% rate hike for sewer and 45% increase for water. This company has already raised the sewer cost by $9 in April of 2018 and again another $5 in August of 2018. This particular increase could raise the average person's bill by approximately $50 a month. The residents in the Stonegate subdivision, as well as surrounding subdivisions, don't get what they're paying for now, not even close. Such an increase can put a heavier burden on my mother-in-law's way of life, as well as other residents in Irmo. Though $50 may not sound like a lot to you, this will be an increase to someone who already has to go out and buy bottled water just to cook with, wash her dishes, and even bathe with at times. Now, I'm not sure how the water is where you're living, but how would you like to wonder every time you cut the faucet on if it's safe to drink, even if it's safe to cook with, or even if you were supposed to boil it before using it? It is evident by the turnout and some of the people here tonight that your attention to this matter should be taken very seriously. And I'm asking that this rate increase be denied by this town council. It would not be fair to the residents of Irmo, as well as several subdivisions that use Blue Granite. They don't have a choice but to use Blue Granite water. And again, by the pictures I've showed you, that's almost an every other week occurrence. I thank you for your time. I wish everybody here a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday.
Where's Stonegate? Coon Road? It's on Coon Road? Towards the high school? Dutch Fork, okay. Right. Any more comments? Anybody else would like to comment? Please come up to the podium. Nobody else wants to comment? Okay.
I do, but I'm shy, but I'll do it anyway.
That's fine. Don't be shy.
My name is Chris Kessler. I live at 541 Compass Rose Way in Rose Oaks. I moved here a couple years ago, I'm trying to get it acclimated to this area. It's all new, different from Dallas, Fort Worth, and many of the other big cities I've lived in. But never, ever, in any other place that I live, did I have to pay a flat rate for sewer. It was always based on how much water did I consume. Growing up, I was taught to conserve water. So if my sewer rate's based on my water, it makes sense to not use a lot of water because I pay a smaller sewer. I have no incentive here to conserve water, even though as a single person living in a single house, I pay $65.08, even if I'm not in the house. If I go on vacation, it's ridiculous. So besides the fact that they want a ridiculous increase, I would like to ask, that we turn that down, whatever power this council has to turn that down, but also make the billing, make them change the billing to bill me for my water usage, not augment my neighbors who have 7 or 8 people in the house. That's one of my concerns about being here. I'd like to have it lowered, to be fair to me. So that's the only reason I'm here today, to seek your support in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure y'all sign the petition outside. If you didn't already do that, please don't forget to do that on the way out tonight. Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Rosamond Talby at Ricefield Plantation. I'm near Rose Oaks, and I use blue granite for sewer right now. So the inflation rate for 2019 was 2.1. We had a 20% increase last year. Last year's inflation rate was 1.9. So why should we pay a 56% increase for the year? Because banks give us 1.0 interest on our money. So, I mean, we can't keep up with the rate increase of 56%. That's it.
Anybody here to speak in favor of blue granite's increase?
Mr. Mayor, if I might report to you, as you know, we have filed at your direction a petition to intervene with the Public Service Commission to fight the increase. The town of Irmo has authorized me to fight the increase, and we have filed the petition, which I believe you have a copy of. I'm happy to report we have an awful lot of company. There are a number of other governments and watchdogs agencies which have done the same thing we have done, which is to file petitions to intervene in order to fight this increase. I would strongly urge everybody here to contact the Public Service Commission, which actually is responsible for considering this increase, and to file an actual protest. The form is online. If everyone in here files the form for the protest, they'll be kept apprised of what is happening before the PSC, but we will certainly be appearing on behalf of the town to fight every single piece of this requested increase. It's not fair and it's not right, and I thank you for allowing me to do that.
Okay. I also like to add, Mr. Moore, that Senator Dick Harpootlian is very interested in this problem, and he will be contacting you if he hasn't already. Okay, great. I'm sure he's got the power of the legislature to also get in front of the PSC when we have that meeting. And by the way, we're scheduled to have a meeting here on the 30th of January, where the PSC will be here at Town Hall in the evening to hear your comments and to hear our comments in this very room, the 30th of January. Is there any more people for the public hearing that'd like to make a comment or bring information for the council?
Karen Cadell, and I live on North Royal Tower, and I talk with Chip Huggins, and I've been to some of the PSC hearings, and my opinion is that the Public Service Commission, their habit is to just give blanket approval to corporations. Their mission statement is to represent the public, but their history shows that they favor corporations. The turnout has not been impressive. I mean, if we want this, if we want to fight this, we have to show up and speak up. The online form is not easy. You have to click the link, not the picture of the form. You've got to print it out, sign it, scan it, save it as a PDF, and then get it back to them. It's just not easy if you're not savvy, and I'm not, so it took me a long time. And I've done that several times with them. Just print the form, handwrite it in there, and mail it to them. But do it. You really, our voice is everything. Otherwise, they're just going to go, these people really don't care. Fine, you can have your $101 sewer. I only have sewer, so that's my beef. But we, you know, it was only like 5 years ago that I paid $40. And and I talked with the ORS, the Office of Regulatory Services, and they are a friend in this. Public Service Commission, not so much. But I asked them about the increase, and they said, well, they do all this work, and then they reimburse. We reimburse them for that. So I read through all the documents and everything, and for the Friarsgate plant, we paid them $593,000 for improvements to that plant, which they just decommissioned after we ponied up for all that work. And so the decommissioned plant is the one that just spilled into Rawls Creek. So I just have a problem paying egregious rates to this company in light of their malfeasance, operational and, I think, fiscal. So we have to come together as a group and a unified voice. That's the biggest thing. Well, you know, not just talking to each other. We have to talk to the Public Service Commission. So that's all. It's just that encouragement. So print out the form and send it in.
Can I make a note on that? So to that point, just as a follow-up, only 85, maybe 90 people had filed a protest as of yesterday. So if everyone in the room is against it, I don't want to assume, but even if just the number of people in this room, you'd nearly increase it by 50%. So I encourage you to, if you're against the rate increase, to file a protest.
Are there any more comments? Seeing none, I'll call the public hearing to a close, and I will begin the regular town council meeting. I'll call to order the regular town council meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance given by Councilwoman Kathy Condon and the invocation.
There it is.
Don't get that.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a new group, let's join hands and say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Thank you. Start with the reading of the minutes from our December 3rd meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes?
I'd like to,
December 3rd.
December 3rd, sorry.
Seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes as printed?
Which ones had the mistake?
It says December 3rd and December 11th.
Well, we can do one at a
Do
time.
one at a time? Okay. I make a motion, we approve December 3rd.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Been properly moved and second. Is anybody, all those in favor show by raising your right hand? All opposed? All right. Same thing, December 11th meeting. Are there any changes or modifications to that?
I'd like to mention maybe we could rectify or ratify. There was some confusion at the end of the meeting as to whether we officially adjourned or not.
Right?
I don't know what's proper.
So what did you want to do?
But I would suggest that we were all in agreement that it was adjourned at that time, correct?
Correct.
If the minutes could reflect that.
So you want to change the minutes to reflect that we properly adjourned the meeting at the end?
That we were all in agreement.
You're all in agreement?
All in agreement that
Most,
so
Make the motion.
I can't motion my own suggestion.
Yeah, you can.
Well, I make a motion that we rectify.
rectify the meeting. Motion's been properly made to amend the minutes, and seconded.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. Now, we'd like to approve the minutes as amended. Would I hear a motion?
A motion we approve as amended.
Been properly moved, second. Mr. Sickinger seconded. All those in favor of the minutes as moved, as properly moved, and motioned and amended, all like say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. And next, I would like to report of the standing administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, do you have any changes for us in administrative briefing?
Yes, sir. Just one thing. The owner has requested that we pull ordinance 1929 from the agenda tonight.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Do we need to?
Okay.
Okay.
Take that under amendments, I guess. All right. Anything else? That's it?
Did that.
Anybody had any changes for Mr. Brown? No?
I have new in-town business.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm talking about the administrative briefing. I'm sorry. None? Okay. So, Mr. Chickinger, you had Newtown.
Yeah, so one of the things that we wanted to do was recognize as part of businesses who are registering with the town, the little bit that we can give back is alert the public to those new businesses. And so I wanted to read those off. They're on the TVs as well for you. That's Blue Tin Properties, True to Form Collision Repair. I'm not sure how to pronounce that one. De Natural L, Sheer Temptations, Lauren Price, Salon, and Palmetto Therapy. So it's just going to be a running process that we do on a monthly basis.
Welcome companies.
These are new businesses in town.
Correct.
Thank you. Great. Are there any amendments to the agenda? We have the one where we're going to be removing item B under new business. It's been withdrawn.
We need to make a motion.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yeah.
I move we remove it from the agenda at the request of the seller,
Okay,
owner.
it's been moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded, voted unanimous. Are there any more amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, move on to consideration of communications. Do we have any consideration of communications?
Yes, I have one. Last year was the first year that the council attended Lexington County Night, which this year is January 14th. I've heard from 3 commissioners that they appreciated us coming last year, so they want us to come again. It's at the Convention Center downtown, and it's a very good opportunity to meet state officials, our legislative group. Almost everybody's there that you need to make a town grow. You also see a representative of every industry, big industry, in Lexington County, which I thought was very interesting. Anyway, I think we should attend if at all possible. I plan to. We don't have a meeting that night, and they did it on the second Tuesday, so we could attend, which I think is very nice, very considerate. So put that on your calendars. January 14th, beginning at 6, at the Convention Center.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah. I received a communication from a resident who lives in Hamilton Park Drive, who is concerned about the striping on College Avenue between College and Columbiana, and is concerned about the traffic flow there. And I promised her that I would raise it up at the meeting as a result of her email. So she's concerned about those double yellow stripes being gone from that section of Columbiana Avenue. And I know that's probably a county thing. County DOT. So, but you know, when things like this happen, I think it's really important that we make it public when there are issues with bodies that we don't control, just like Blue Granite with PSC. So I wanted to bring it front and center as part of our concern.
We don't control it, but we got the telephone number of the DOT people
That's it.
also. We can certainly drop a dime and make sure at top of their list of priorities for us.
You're talking about the main road with the entrance to Hamilton Park and Carmel Commons on
Yes.
the right and Beacon. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Even down College Street, it's gone.
And
And
I've
that's-
been that way.
Yeah, that's Midlands Tech, Lexington County, DOT, it's
Yeah.
all 3 of them. Any other thing?
I had a verbal communication, and it was regarding the rains that we had over the past week and some flooding or possible flooding issues along Rawls Creek. And so I've begun a bunch of investigation, talking to the counties, and it's a complicated situation. So I'm going to spend more time and try to figure out what the best approach is to try to, alleviate some of the flooding if possible.
You're talking about some of the flooding. I was on Facebook and I saw some videos.
Some of that too, yeah. I
Okay.
saw those, and then I spoke with somebody, and so I've spoken with Richland County, Lexington County. Going to put a call into Mr. Klein over there and just see what the best way forward is. It's complicated.
It's a great opportunity for one of the new committees of flooding and
Yeah,
sewer
absolutely.
committee
But I did,
get
and
involved.
that is a concern. I looked at some of the maps and I looked at some of the video, and that's a lot of water.
Yeah.
It is.
It may have been exacerbated by the pond that spilled that day, and I believe Blue Granite's little holding tank that fell
Yeah.
out. So that could have maybe exacerbated it, but we need to dig into this.
Did I hear you when we were emailing, when you were telling us about this and you going out there, that the tank is now in the creek?
Well, the tank has basically collapsed, and the contents went gravity.
I understand.
Took care of it, so bit of a mess.
That's awful.
On that note, I have some communication also. I would like the public to know that the town has issued 3 tickets for illicit discharge from that sewage spill from Blue Granite. 3 tickets totaling $1,087.50 each. To them, it might be a drop in the bucket, but the fact is they polluted our streams and our rivers and our land. We're also going to issue 3 more tickets. Will be issued at a later date this week with Blue Granite, and it's for illicit discharge into Rawls Creek. So they're getting 2 hits, one for polluting just the property in general, and then one for polluting the streams, which I know that some of the videos you have, people have Rawls Creek in the back of their property, and they certainly got affected by the spill. So we are trying to, well, we will be getting Blue Granite on putting them on notice that regardless of what their reasoning for the collapse of their holding tank, we're not really concerned about it. But the fact that it did cause them to dump millions of gallons of raw sewage in our town, in our streams, which is not, healthy whatsoever. So the town has issued 3 tickets and will be issuing 3 more. Are there any other consideration and communication? Hearing none. Presentation by citizens on agenda items only. We have a few people. First up on the list is Mr. George Glassmere.
That was for the public hearing.
Oh, okay. I just called Mr. George Glassmeyer. If he wants to come to the microphone, he's welcome to.
They scratched their name off.
Okay, thank you. George Glassmeyer, 100 Denbeck Road. I want to address items 10A and 10C, the proposals to implement term limits. I'd like to point out that I serve on one of those panels, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and have had the pleasure and honor to do so for several years. I'm not opposed to term limits. I'm just questioning as to whether or not council has thought this through as far as the mechanics of this. My first concern is, when will the shot clock start for incumbent members? And will they get, as soon as will time that they've already served on the respective panel be counted towards the 8 years? And what about there are some members that have already served more than 8 years, they're on their 3rd or 4th term, would they be immediately discharged from their respective panel when this ordinance passes? So I think you need to think about those mechanics and how you're going to work this out. The second concern I have about this, there's an old saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If council improves these term limits, are you also going to make proposals in town ordinance to implement term limits for council members? Thank you very much.
Ms. Carol Sloop.
Good evening, and congratulations on all your new positions on council. I was going to speak to the issue that has been removed, but I would like to see if there's an explanation as to why the Coon Road rezoning has been removed from tonight's agenda.
All we know is that the owner has withdrawn the request.
They didn't say. This, I love sharing my evening with you guys, but this is the second meeting I've come to where this was, on the agenda to be discussed. And, I did feel a big sigh of relief when I didn't think I had to go through my notes and speak. So that was good. But I just want to make sure, because the Planning Commission agenda, I'm not sure about it. Is it posted online? All right, where do I? Okay, so how do I know if something comes up for the Planning Commission agenda? Pardon? No. Okay, I think it would be a good idea if we did like Richland County, which God help, I'm quoting Richland County, something good they do there. Forgive me. But they do put signs up on properties that are coming up for the Planning Commission. I think that the citizenry would like to have advance notice, because if the sign is not up before it goes to the Planning Commission, and then it's not up when it comes to first reading, but it is put up if it passes first reading, is my understanding.
Right.
Okay, just me, I kind of feel like I've been shot in the foot twice already. So it's very hard at that point in time to get the momentum to come back and try to fight it for the second and third reading if it's passed first. So I would ask you to please entertain my suggestion, and that's all it is. It's just a suggestion. But again, look forward to seeing y'all again some other time. Thank you so very much. Good evening. Merry Christmas.
Evening.
Merry Christmas. Mr. Vince Vaccaro. Mr. Vince Vaccaro. Okay. Mr. David Stewart.
Good evening, Council and the public. I'm David Stewart, 101 Glossop Circle. I wanted to comment on something that happened in my family's business with Dominion Power in Virginia.
Wait a minute, we're talking about
I
things
understand
on the agenda.
it's on the agenda because it relates to connections with the Public Service Commission. I can bring it up later, but I hate to have to wait for you
Yeah, I'm
guys
sorry,
to come
but
back
I
from
don't-
executive session.
Where is that at on here? You said, what is this relating to now? What item? What agenda item?
What agenda item?
Yeah.
It's not on here, but it's relating to the public hearing that we just had.
Okay, I apologize, Mr. Stewart, but we need to wait until the end of the council meeting for that, unless you wanted to speak during the public hearing, which we already closed that. But if you have some other information you want to give us, you really need to concentrate on.
Not
what's
at
on
this
the-
time, but I hope you have a short executive session.
I think we will. But do come back at the end of the meeting. Mr. Chris, or Ms. Chris Kessler? Keisler.
Pass.
You already spoke? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Patrick Endicott. Okay. Mr. Mark Pouliot.
Good evening, Council. I'm Mark Pouliot. I'm at 31 Castlevale Court. And I'm speaking to you about something under unfinished business, the second reading of the Irmo Town Council, Chapter 22, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions, Article 4, Offenses Against Public Peace. My question is, first of all, do you know how long that this ordinance has been on the books? Well, I can tell you it's 1985. And since that time, we really hadn't had a lot of problems with this. This was just brought up in the last 3 years. And I believe it was more brought up as a political agenda. My question is, you've already voted one time on this. And I'm wondering if you asked the experts as to why they want this here. I'm gathering that no one has asked the experts.
I asked the police.
You did. Excellent. So, did you vote for it last time? You did.
Because of state law. That's the only reason.
We're not in a debate back and forth. So
I understand. I understand. Now,
here's the comments from the citizens.
if you look at some of the other municipalities around, many of them have pretty much the exact wording as our ordinance. And those that don't have the exact wording have made some changes, and if you want to do that, that's fine. But I believe if you asked the chief, he'd tell you that he'd like to see it in there. I know that the previous town attorneys wanted it in there. And again, I don't see the other municipalities having the same issues as was brought up here in Irmo. I would say that your jobs, number one, is to keep the town safe. Number one. That being the case, you really need to ask your experts why they want it, and then go with that. You know that state law provides for a concealed weapons permit. Look, I work for a gun manufacturer.
Thank you, Mr. Pouliot. The time limit is up. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Ms. Barbara Waldman.
I was going to speak to ordinance 1929, but since that's been removed from the agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Joe Mac Bates Jr.
Joe Mac Bates Jr., 923 Coon Road, Richland County, Irmo, South Carolina. I'm not a member of your community to vote, but may I speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would reiterate everything that Ms. Sloop said about the notifications, and I've given the email address, but that's the only thing. Again, I'm an old Richland County guy, and don't approve of a lot of things they do, but at least they put you on notice if something changes coming along. I'd like to make one other comment about the potential change of zoning that was going to take place, and I made this same comment a month ago, approximately. To just carte blanche change a zoning to general commercial with no use stated is egregious against the neighbors. I'd urge you to address that in your future working with zoning changes. I have no problem with anybody wanting to do business in a certain fashion, but let us know what it is and let us be reasonable about you all approving it. I appreciate your time. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you. Miss Kelly Cloud? Mr. Kelly Cloud? Oh, Keith. I apologize. It looked like an L.
I don't have really much to say other than I'm just following up with what Joe Mack said. I think it's very important to let us know. And I'm on the list, so now we're ready. So that was concerning the one that's 1929.
Withdrawn.
Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cloud. And Ms. Rosemont Tabi, I think she's gone. Okay. Is there anybody else that didn't sign that wants to address anything on the agenda? Please come forward. Even though you didn't sign in,
It's okay.
we can let you know. Thank you very much, sir.
Apologize, Mayor.
Just give us your name.
Late, didn't have a chance to sign.
That's
Name's
fine.
Robert Kiesler, 116 Walnut Lane. Speaking specifically about item 9B, the zoning change from 16 to 4 per acre. I'll let you know in favor of that. The main reason is, I believe it's zoned commercial now. Commercial should be commercial, not residential. That's one of the big issues there. And when people buy property or buy land or do things around the area, they kind of want to know what's going to be next to them. And when you do something like this, zoning should mean something. It shouldn't mean, oh, I can build anything I want to, other than, why would you have those classifications at all? There are a lot of other issues, some of which are not under the town's control, such as stormwater drainage, such as, setbacks, buffers, things of that nature, school district impacts there. All those should be considered, but again, those are kind of not under the control of council, but we should have a voice in those areas. And I also thought it was kind of, why was this change in the first place? My understanding, I don't know the year, and maybe you can tell me, they went from 7 to 16. What? 2016. And now why did that happen? I got to looking around, and I kind of figured, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but looked at other areas, organizations around, other counties and stuff. They don't have that. You know, they have lower density areas for commercial districts. So I'm kind of wondering why that happened in the first place. Don't know, but kind of suspicious to me a little bit there. But regardless of that, just want to let you know we're in favor of the change. I only speak for myself here, but I also represent Hill Creek subdivision, which is one area that's impacted that. And I can tell you a lot of people in those areas are very interested in this particular zoning change and are very much in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keesler. Are there anybody else who'd like to speak on the agenda items that have not signed the list? Seeing none, I'm going to move on. Unfinished business A, second reading of the ordinance of the concealed weapons ordinance, removing the word pistol from the first sentence. Is there a motion for second reading?
Motion for a second.
There's a motion been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been moved and second. Any comments? No. None? Mr.
Trying to catch up here. I scrolled real far down in our. Let's see. Yeah, this is 9A, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think did a lot of, due to citizen feedback, I did some additional research on this and looked at some other county and town ordinances, and some of them had pistols, some did not. Some added a little disclaimer at the bottom that this isn't in violation of concealed carry and not intended to construe that where you can't conceal carry if you have a CWP. Not quite that language, of course, but I met with police, with the chief and a couple other members, but I don't want to get into the conversation that I had because I don't think it's right that we should politicize their actions, but they should feel free to say however they want without us necessarily putting all out there. But safe to say I feel comfortable with how it's with removing pistol.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Ms. Conlon, anything?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I did not speak with the chief, but I spoke with his right hand, with the captain. And my understanding was this was something they could bargain with. That if you couldn't quite arrest someone for one part of this law with pistol in there, you could. It gave them some latitude. The other thing, and I heard this and I tried to find it and I honestly couldn't, so I'll get Mr. Moore to tell me if it's true. This would make the change, would make us conform with state law. But federal law has pistol in it?
I don't know what the federal law does, but I do know that the state law does allow the concealed carry. And in my humble opinion, this would bring us into compliance with state law.
I understand. Several people told me that, and I got lost looking at it for a fed.
Truly, it doesn't matter if the federal law says pistol or not, as long as the state law is going to be what's going to control the concealed carry in the state. The state has a right to allow that, which they've done. And what you want to have is your ordinances in compliance with state law. This brings the ordinance in compliance with state law. I see nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
Unless the chief has serious objections to it, which I doubt he does. It appears to me that this is simply bringing you in compliance with state law. That's a good idea.
Maybe we should ask the chief.
Well, I have, but you want to ask him in public?
Chief, would you like to comment on this?
Thank you, Council. We have discussed this numerous times. Of course, any state law trumps any ordinance that we have. I mean, if someone's carrying a concealed weapon, they have a concealed weapons permit, we are not going to charge them under this ordinance. I don't think we would have an issue with that. And if we want to use the ordinance, we still can. The last sentence in there says, any weapon, I believe it's not on there yet, but I think at the last sentence says any weapon. So, I mean, if you take pistol out, you can take anything out of it. We can still use it. It was just good to have the wording that would be something we could say, because honestly, it doesn't matter. If you guys want to take it out, that's fine. If you want to leave it, that's fine. We're not going to write anybody a ticket if they have a permit to do so and carry a weapon concealed.
Okay.
So if you
Okay.
feel, if it feels good to take it out, we can take it out. It's fine.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you. No?
Sorry.
Any more comments? All those in favor, ready to vote? Ready to vote? All those in favor, second reading, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's unanimous. Second reading, B, ordinance to change the maximum allowed density in multifamily from 16 to 4. Is there a motion for second reading?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Sickinger motion, Mr.
Yeah.
Kelly second. Okay. All right, Mr. Sickinger.
I echo my comments on this the first time around, which is I feel like there's a time for a pause here, and there's a lot of work to be done before I feel comfortable making any changes after that. But as it stands right now, and the rezoning requests, and I see the land that's open right now, I want to make sure that we move forward deliberatively, rather than just leaving it at 16 or leaving it at 4 permanently, and this allows us that pause.
Okay. Mr. Bush?
I'm definitely in favor of this because of the fact that we just had a rain event where we had flooding, and unfortunately in construction, when you pave and put asphalt shingles on roofs, it contributes considerably more water to the runoff situation. And I don't think some of those things have been addressed in the past. And I think it's definitely something, if we can slow this down and then take a good hard look at the way we zone things and the way we allow.
You mean infrastructure impact?
Infrastructure, yeah,
Okay.
the impacts the infrastructure. Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so
Ms. Condon?
I only want to ask, so do you two gentlemen think we ought to defer this or proceed?
Oh, proceed.
No, proceed.
Proceed, okay, got it.
Yeah, I'm in favor of proceed.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. No more comments? Ready to vote? All those in favor of second reading of 1927, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, new business. New business, Article 1928, to establish term limits for the board members on the ZBA. Is there a motion for first reading? So moved. I'll make a motion for first reading. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay. Probably moves in second. The reason why I put this on the agenda is because we have a lot of folks that are wanting to get on boards and commission. And what we're having is, like Mr. Glassmere said, we have people been on those boards for 30 years. And we need to be able to allow folks, new folks that want to serve on these boards, an opportunity to serve. I think serving 2 years is quite long, 2 terms is quite long enough. Beyond that, if they wanted to continue to serve, they need to rotate off for 1 term, and then if they want to come back on after that 1 term, that's fine. But that would allow us not to be continually reappointing the same people for 20 and 30 years. I think we have a lot of, tonight we're going to be appointing people to the Planning Commission. You can just look on there, there's about 6, 7 people that are interested in being on that commission. But if we don't ever have an opening on these commissions, because the incumbents keep wanting to get reappointed, it's unfair and it's hurting the morale of the people that want to serve. So that's the reason why I put that on there, that term limit. Some people mentioned term limits for us. We just had a term limit. 3 of the council members that were on here had 1 term, and they don't have any, they're not on here now. So we already have term limits for us. Automatically, every 2 years, we have a vote that's made. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, so I think, you know, this affected me personally. I applied to be on, I think it was the Planning Commission, and my name got brought up, I think, but that was as far as it got. One of the things that I'm excited about with the new council is the opportunity for a completely different perspective, and even if it's not the way things were always done. And I think when we're talking about planning and zoning and these boards is having different people in there who might mix it up and giving people, and I don't even know if some people wouldn't even put their name in the hat because they think, oh, the same people are just going to get appointed year after year. Now, to the point that was brought, the question of, and I don't see it clearly in that ordinance, is when the timer would start, who it would apply to. I'm fine with 2 terms, 8 years. I don't know how I feel about a 4-year term versus a gap of 4 years versus a gap maybe of 2 years, because it at least allows somebody else to raise their hand. But on that general framework of 2 terms and then rotate, I'm fine.
2 consecutive terms.
Right. Because I was looking at, sorry, before I see,
No.
before I yield my time to the woman.
Oh, you've been watching the hearing.
No, I go ahead. Yield.
So you yield to Ms. Condon.
I just have a question. Does membership in the zoning board require any classes or like the planning commission does?
It does. They're required to have
Okay.
6 hours initial training and 3 hours a year.
That's my only hangup. As long as everybody that wants to be on it realizes they have to be trained and, you know, give up the time to go. Because the planning commission is quite a while, isn't it? Their classes, the planning commission, isn't it quite a...
Same classes, 6
Okay.
hours initial and
Okay.
3 hours a year.
I think that's important. As long as they know they've got to do that, term limits are fine.
Okay.
Living proof is the Congress of the United States.
Mr. Bush.
No, I mean,
I'm gonna agree with what everybody said. I think that Mr. Glassmeyer did bring up a great point that we do need to clarify how this is gonna be implemented. Is that the incumbents that are in would fill their term, and then at the end of that term, this would apply? Or
Well, without making any other changes to the ordinance, they would complete their term that they're currently in. And if they've served 2 full terms, then we would pick somebody else.
Okay.
Right.
well, but this is first reading, so we could do that if,
No, this is not.
This-
because that is a good point. Thank you.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah,
We have another we can amend in the second.
right.
Yeah.
So I'd like to look into it a little further and see if we need to make any amendments to kind of clarify that, or if it's just going to be a given.
Okay.
I'm happy to look into that for you. Whether you grandfather this or when you start that is going to depend on the actual wording of the legislation. If you want to make it where it clearly indicates that if you've already served 2 terms, you can't serve again, you need to add that to your ordinance. If you want to basically say that it starts with the next term, you need to say that in your ordinance. What's going to control the question is going to be the language of the ordinance you pass. And what's going to need to happen is the council is going to need to give some direction to staff in regard to how you want that to work. But you can do that again on second reading after you've had time to ponder it, if you like. Which will be, again, don't have to make tonight, I would highly recommend that you be ready to be in position to take a stand on that when we come back to the second reading.
So defer it?
No, we're going to vote on it and then we're
Vote
going
it now and then the second
make
reading.
it
first
second
reading,
reading.
okay.
Yeah.
We can amend it to clear the.
Right, to whatever else we want to say. Okay. Any more comments? All in favor then? We ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. It's unanimous. Moving on, first reading, ordinance 1929, and that's to,
Oh,
we removed that, I'm
move
sorry.
that one, yeah.
First reading of ordinance 1930, and that's to establish a two-term limit, same thing for the planning commission.
No?
Motion? Motion? Second? Mr. Kelly, Mr. Sickinger motion, Mr. Kelly seconded.
Yeah, so I have a comment that I remembered that I was trying to say, which is there's already a number of great candidates that are in this pool, and I can only imagine that with further advertising and citizen engagement that we can increase that with awareness of what these bodies do. And I think that as we've had these arguments about 16 versus 4, or this place is going in over here and I don't like that, I don't like this happening in my neighborhood. Well, these are the bodies that control that. So if you want to make a change, that's how you can do that without just standing at the podium. So I'm in favor of that.
Okay, Mr. Bush.
I have no comment.
No, you seconded. You got to say something.
Yeah, all right. If it need be clarified like the other.
Okay.
amendments, I think we need to work.
Point of privilege. Can you speak into your microphone? Because I can't hear you.
So I believe that if we need to clarify any wording in here, we can do that at the second amendment.
Absolutely.
The second reading.
Absolutely. Ms. Condon?
The,
Yield to Ms. Condon?
Thank you. I'm glad we have so many people, because this is not usually the case. Usually we have to get on the phone and call people and ask them to volunteer. So I'm delighted that we do. We have a selection, and that's wonderful.
And I think that because after we pass this, you'll see even more people wanting to throw their names in the hat and become part of the town fabric of the town. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm really for this. Any more comments? Ready to vote? All in favor of the motion, first reading, say aye.
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 All opposed? It's unanimous. Approval of resolution 1905 to change the traffic pattern, South Carolina DOT, that was put on by Councilman Sickinger. Is there a motion for first or for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion is second, Mr. Sickinger.
Yeah, so this
I
is.
think you got a map up there too. There we go.
This is, if I can, there, which if you're just listening to the recording, that's Woodrow and Lake Murray, parallel with St. Andrews. So this is something that, frankly, I think about every time I leave a council meeting, which is stop at the stop sign and then wait for traffic to slow down a little bit or for there to be a break. Close your eyes, pray, and press on the gas. And frankly, it's, I don't know. I know that wasn't necessarily designed with the growth of Irmo and the Midlands in mind, but my concern is, I don't know how many cars have driven into TD Bank, but I think the last one should be the last. And I'm concerned about safety. I'm concerned about someone. It's just, I don't know how many lanes of traffic it is. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus the other side. It's too many. And all this would do is it would make Woodrow at Lake Murray a right turn only. It would not change the inbound traffic. It would not change Carlisle or College or anything like along those lines. It's what we can do for a dangerous intersection, and I'm in favor of it. Who seconded?
I did. I'm in favor too, because you throw in a railroad track too. And, it becomes very dangerous, and I'm glad this came up. We should have done this long ago, but it came up because we have new businesses going in to the whole area that you've got to do something. And I think this is a good remedy for that.
It's working. I also believe that we ran on trying to make improvements throughout the town of Irmo, and I believe this is a good improvement, and I think there's going to be many more to follow, so I agree that we should recommend this.
I'm in agreement, but I have one comment though. Coming out of Carlisle Street, that street right here, they're saying that that's a raised concrete medium right there. That means you can't leave Carlisle Street, go straight across and take a left turn on Lake Murray to go to St. Andrews. You're gonna have to turn right there also. Is that what we really wanna do, or they have to take a right turn and go down this little raised median area here?
No, I think that's.
And then take a U-turn to get on that? In other words, in order to leave here and take a left turn on Lake Murray Boulevard, you're gonna have to go down to where the gas station is. That, whatever that street is, I can't remember the name of that.
You can't.
Yeah.
Child Street. In order to make a left turn.
It is.
Is that what we wanna do? Y'all see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Because I used to work here. And coming around.
They can't see where you're pointing.
Okay. I used to Caldwell Banker. I used to work there.
Yeah.
So you'd come around back, Ameris Bank is on the, yeah. It is.
Yeah, but okay, even if you come down that street, Ameris Bank, and you wanna go left,
You take
you
your
can't.
life in your hands.
You can't go left anyway.
So you'd have to go right, and I think that's.
Right.
I think
So how do you go left from
So
that?
just for some order here, my thinking was instead of turning right to come out to Woodrow and then or going around back, you just simply turn left and go down to the medical center and turn there.
Okay, but that's fine coming from here. But if you're coming from Carlisle Street from Ameris Bank, and you want to make a right turn on Lake Murray, how do you do that? You have to go all the way up to St. Andrews, make a U-turn somewhere, and come back down. There's no way to make a right turn from here.
Okay,
A right or a point of clarification?
A left, I'm sorry, a left.
Right here,
Yeah,
a
you
left
can only make a
here.
right and only make a right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't make a left from that street.
That is
Here, I see no problem, but here is where I see a potential issue. See what I'm saying? How do you make a left turn?
I understand, but, okay.
Good question.
So I think that's meant to not make a left turn out of those two side streets as well.
I agree with Woodrow. I disagree with Carlisle. You should be able to make a left turn. And right now they're putting raised 4-inch raised concrete medium. You can't do it, or you're not supposed to do it.
This is the plan, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'm Lori Campbell from SCDOT, so.
Hold on a second, please.
How many questions?
Hold on a second. Do you understand? You understand?
No, I understand, yeah.
You understand my question? All right.
I do understand your question.
Okay, so Bob, do we have anybody from SCDOT who can explain that to me? Oh, yes. Okay, there you are. Hello, what's your name?
I'm Lori Campbell. I'm the district traffic engineer for SCDOT.
Wow, it just so happened. All right.
Convenient.
There we go. So you see my question, Ms. Campbell?
I do.
Okay.
Actually, so this design was one that we had been working on in related to some citizen requests we had received. We received a call from the town staff asking if there was anything that could be done. Actually, by the time town staff had called, we already had drawn this drawing, so that worked out nicely. One of the issues at Carlisle is with the growth that is in the area, potential anticipated, The movements at Carlisle Street are going to become more and more difficult. Also, you've got Child Street further down. So with this plan, yes, vehicles would either turn right off of Carlisle, proceed down, make a U-turn where it's safe and available, or they could just continue down to Child Street and come up. You can concentrate some additional traffic onto Child Street, and then that intersection can be reviewed to see if additional mitigations are necessary in the future. It's very hard to determine what quantity of vehicles are going to end up at Child Street until you implement the concrete median. Some of them are going to choose to go down to the medical center. Obviously, the ones on the other side will either use the back streets or they'll go up to the next signal to access. So this would be a safety measure that could be made at Woodrow. It could be incorporated with some mitigations at Child Street related to increases in traffic volumes. And then, Child Street certainly would not be off the table once traffic kind of reallocated itself, which is what we would anticipate to happen. And I have crash diagrams available for y'all if you want to look at them.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
You can see the magnitude of crashes that we've had in this area. I believe that's a 4 or 5 year period.
So I agree with Woodrow, that's fine. My question is, if I was at Ameris Bank and I was coming out of that Child Street and I wanted to go to CVS, how could I do that from Child Street?
Go to the other one down on Lake Merton.
So you could get Eric to show you how to work Waze on your phone, and you can type that in, and then it'll route you there.
It'll route me there from Tesla.
Route you there safely.
It would require, rerouting along the block behind. One of the issues you can see even from the aerial, the fact that we have an X at Child Street means that signal backs up cars through there. Because we don't paint X's unless we're painting them to tell somebody, hey, when you're waiting on the signal way over there, don't sit here.
Right.
But we have found that those X's sometimes complicate matters because the left lane driver might be very nice and they may stop and motion for you to come on out.
Right.
And then the other one doesn't. So that is not really an effective mitigation either for some of the crashes that we're having. So certainly during several periods of the day, Carlisle, that left turn off of Carlisle is not feasible anyway. Unfortunately, the crash report shows that some of the drivers in this area don't realize that, and they still try, and so they're having crashes. So that's one of the ways we have to look at mitigations is, we would prefer that everybody just realize this isn't a good idea right now, but if vehicles continue to try to make movements that put themselves and others in danger, then you do look at some physical reconfigurations to physically direct them to alternate means of travel.
Could you do this in phases? Could you do the Woodrow Street change and then do the Carlisle Street change second?
It's actually likely that would be exactly how that would happen.
Okay.
Our maintenance forces would definitely be responsible in the Woodrow area. We'll have to coordinate. You may notice the reason that the train track is just striping, the concrete doesn't extend, is because getting concrete in the railroad right-of-way is a whole nother issue. So our maintenance forces would be focused on the Woodrow area, and then as development occurs, the developers, which are always responsible for their own mitigations, would be tasked with the mitigations at Carlisle for not only the existing volumes, but the ones that we anticipate will be forthcoming.
Thank you.
Any more comments?
I think it's a safety issue.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I'm just concerned about me leaving here. I want to make a left turn to get to Kroger from here.
So humans are a very adaptable species that at some point, we'll all figure out.
Well, he's got a Tesla, it automatically drives.
From my perspective, it's just growing pains. And,
It is.
And
And with any development that goes in here, this is gonna begin to mitigate anything that's coming along, and it's gonna mitigate the problems that we already have.
Well, I like the fact that they said they'll do it in phases. Do the Woodrow Street first,
It'll give you time to soften up.
and give me time to figure out how to get to Kroger from here at the middle of the night after our council meeting without having to go all the way back to College Street.
Yes.
If I have to go to Kroger. Thank you. Any more comments? All in approval then, say aye.
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 All opposed? It's passed unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have appointments to the Orchestra Commission. We have 2 people. One person asked to be reappointed, and another new person has being asked to be promoted.
I make a motion.
Okay. All right. Motion for the 2 people that they announced. Is there any other appointments? Seeing none, all in favor of the appointments? Is there a
So
motion?
point of order. Is this one motion for 2 people?
Yeah. Well, I can do them separately if you like.
Can we?
Sure. All right. Well, let's start with the first person then. Is there a motion for
Phyllis Hawkins?
Phyllis Hawkins? Is that motion for Phyllis
Yes,
Hawkins?
I
All
moved.
right. She moves to
Do we have to
second.
second a motion on the appointment?
Yeah.
I second.
Okay.
Okay, since I get to go first, let me tell the new members. Normally, the Women's Club invented the orchestra, so to speak. So they pick their representative and ask that we approve it. And I think that is their privilege, and Ms. Hawkins is fine. I think it's their seat on the commission, and I don't think we ought to question them. So I'm all for Ms. Hawkins. Plus, the other night, she's the one that made the broccoli salad, which was delicious. So
That's right. Okay.
I have great faith in good cooks. So anyway.
All right. Any more appointments? None? No?
I fully trust what they bring forward.
Okay. Cool. All right. So all those in favor, raise your right hand of appointing Ms. Phyllis Hawkins to the Orchestra Commission. It's unanimous. Second person they would like to appoint is Cynthia Benson for a voting 3-year position.
I motion.
Motion, okay.
Second.
Ms. Condon, second. Is there any discussion?
Again, I trust who they bring forward.
Yeah.
Yeah? Mr. Sickinger?
Yeah, I generally, I trust that the people who run the strut know who, and the people from the various individual parties know who have faith in the people that they're recommending. I had a concern, and that was rectified, so I'm in favor.
Cool. All those in favor, are ready to vote? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. And now we have, the next thing is appointments to the Planning Commission. There are 2 openings as of right now on the Planning Commission. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 folks that have indicated they would like to be on this Planning Commission. All these people have signed the talent pool and have still indicated that they would like to be appointed. Great. All right. Well, I'd like to open it up. Anybody would like to?
Can I get a point of clarification?
Sure.
You, are any of these members currently serving?
No, sir. These are all new people.
All new
These are all. I'm going to let the new members.
Wait a minute, Robert, is Robert Cox? Bob, is Robert Cox on there? Is Robert Cox a member of the planning commission right now?
He is not.
Okay, yeah, all these are new people then.
These are all new.
All new.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I move. Nominate Clint Scoville.
Clint Scoville?
I'll second.
Second. You want to do them one at a time?
There's
Yeah,
we're
please.
filling
Yeah,
two
okay,
seats.
Yeah,
We're filling 2 seats. We just nominated one person. Would you like to vote on that one person?
yeah,
Any discussion?
yeah. Discussion and then vote.
Yeah, I mean,
vote.
he nominated, you seconded, right?
Okay.
Okay, would you like to do any discussion on that person? Mr. Scoville has been wanting to be on the planning commission for a good while, and he served on the accommodations committee for a good long time. In fact, I think he was chairman of it last go around, but he's ready to move on to the planning commission. I think it's a good choice.
I think based on his resume, he brings forward a lot of good
Right.
experience.
Yeah, I'm obviously in favor. 'Cause I nominated him, but I spoke with him, and he was the only person that called me to explain why he wanted to be on the planning commission. And that sort of, I mean, I know it's just a little thing, right? But just that little extra bit shows willingness to do that work. So,
All right. Any more comments? All in favor of Mr. Scoville, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. All right, we have one more appointment. Anybody like to make a nomination?
I'm trying to get back to the names, just a minute.
What was that lady?
It-
What was that lady you were talking about? No, Bush, Kelly, you were talking, no?
There's several people here that have interest in, I nominate Michelle Carpenter.
Okay. Michelle Carpenter for the planning commission.
I second.
A second, okay. Any discussion? This is for you, so, okay.
I know she wants to be more actively involved,
Well, here's a chance.
and, yeah. She's a smart young lady, and I think this would be good.
Okay. Ready to vote?
no, I have a comment.
Okay.
Just more discussion.
Okay, Mr. Sickinger.
So it's interesting because when I was looking at these names, and frankly, there's so many people that I want to nominate. That's why I didn't say anything, because as I was reading through these, I kept reading and going, yeah, every single person on this list could serve on the planning commission. I've been impressed. I said the exact same thing to myself when I saw Michelle's name on there, in that she is at nearly every event that the town hosts or anybody hosts to create engagement. And I don't know if I know anybody that's more active in just showing up to everything, every council meeting, every special meeting, every event. I have not had the pleasure of attending a lot of planning meetings, but so I don't know if she's been showing up to those. That's my only concern. But that's it.
Still want to do it? Okay. I understand your question, and I understand your comments. Again, my only thought and my hope is that the fact that we have all these folks willing to be on the planning commission will extrapolate to all the other committees and boards that we have in the town. Now, even though we're not picking them right now to be on the planning commission, there are going to be other openings coming up pretty soon on the planning commission, on ZBA, on the accommodations committee, even on the orchestra. I believe by us promoting this person tonight on the orchestra, that leaves an opening for the orchestra committee. So there's not you're not relegated to this one type committee.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think we've opened the door with a few other committees that are
Exactly.
voluntary, where if folks
Right.
have interest, they can come in, spend some time with that, and then.
Absolutely.
As we rotate the 8 years out, then
Right.
we'll have spike.
Is that cool? All right. Everybody ready to vote? All those in favor of appointment of Ms. Michelle Carpenter, raise your right hand. All opposed? And that's not a vote against anybody. That's just saying that we have 2 openings. We appointed 2 people. Congratulations to Ms. Michelle Carpenter and Mr. Clint Scoville on your appointments to the Planning Commission. Also, congratulations to Ms. Cynthia Benson and Ms. Phyllis Hawkins. I appreciate your service, and we look forward to doing even more appointments. That concluding our business, we have a presentation by citizens on anything that you want to talk to us about. Mr. David Stewart, you are welcome to come forward and speak if you like.
You've been on hold a while.
You've been on hold for a minute. And thank you for waiting until
Well,
the end.
sure.
I hope it wasn't a long meeting. I
That's
tried
okay.
not to.
Thanks for yielding, George. David Stewart, 101 Glossop Circle. To address something that Kelly mentioned earlier, 30 years ago, we had a flooding problem in Coatsworth. It took a lot of money to fix it. And it came from this town. Didn't come from the state. Didn't come from Lexington County. It came from this town. So I wanted you to know that's what's coming for you. As far as putting term limits on elections and appointments, I think it's within the council's discretion to go ahead and make those term limits for appointments. I think it should rather be left to the voters to put people in the places that you're sitting in right now rather than have term limits. As far as what I started to say earlier, I have family in Virginia who are customers of Dominion Power. When the previous administration in Washington had proposed and passed the Clean Power Act, the State Corporation Commission in Virginia allowed Dominion Power the rate increase that they requested. Wasn't based on what their costs were. It was based on what they had projected their costs would be, because they didn't know how much the Clean Power Act was going to cost them. So what did the State Corporation Commission do? They froze any future hearings on rate requests for 5 years.
Darn.
So the citizens were left with having to pay rates that had not been set by the State Corporation Commission, which is the same as our Public Service Commission. Well, now that the state of Virginia has a new administration, they are trying to put back in place annual, or rather periodic, rate increases to protect their citizens and also to claw back from Dominion Power $1.2 billion in profits that they were not entitled to. I say all that because of this. I applaud your intervening with the Public Service Commission on the sewer rates that have been proposed for the town. I hope you are at the point where you can consider intervening on any future rate increases for Dominion Power that affect the people in this town, so that we have the right to appeal any decisions that the PSC decides to make on behalf of the greedy people at Dominion Power. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly?
Next.
Any more people to address council?
Council. I'm Larry Slaughter with the Commission. Thank you very much for the support tonight, and I wanted to also commend you, Michelle Carpenter. Thanks, but that was going to be our next non-voting commissioner. So I kind of hate. I hope she's got enough time on her hands for service in both. But I did want to ask, please pass on to any of these folks that are interested. We welcome more folks into the commission and assisting. We've got spots for non-voting commissioners. Any and all of these folks, we'd welcome with open arms to give us a hand. So please do.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Pat Witt. I live on Minehead Road. Most people know me as the carport lady. I just want to thank you, Mr. Barry Walker, for delivering me a permit after just 3 days in office that I could have my carport that I waited patiently 3 years for after going through 4 hip surgeries, 3 knee replacements, and 3 rotator cuff surgeries. I still want to say that I'm very ashamed of the council members to my left and the zoning committee that did everything they could for 3 years to hold this up. But Mr. Barry Walker, being the honest person he is, knew in his heart what was right and tried to help me from day one. So I just don't wish any bad on anybody. But I do believe in the old adage of what goes around comes around, and I believe that maybe that has happened right now. I do want to thank HUD and DOJ for getting involved to make this process happen, but as you know, this case is far from over. This is going to become national news, and it's very sad, a sad day in Irmo, that this dark cloud is going to be held over Irmo for so long, because of people that took a vow when they took their office to be fair to people, to all people, red, yellow, black, or white, disabled, fat, skinny, whatever. Some people had a gun held to their head and said, you're going to vote this way, you're going to do this, you're not going to give this lady this carport. But I thank you, Mr. Walker, for being honest, and I'm so glad that this council is moving in the right direction now. Thank you.
Point of order. I just wanted to say that when citizens, thank you, Ms. Witt, when citizens come up to speak, they should be addressing directly to the council and not to anyone in the audience. I remember a situation that got really heated, and I certainly wouldn't want that to happen again. So,
I'm glad you point that out. Thank you, Mr. Signature. Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Glassmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. George Glassmeyer, 100 Denbeck Road. I want to revisit the term limit issue. Some more thoughts occurred to me on this. Mr. Walker makes a good point that the voters decide the term limits for you folks that sit up there, but I don't know that you need to make a legislative change as to the term limits for the various ZBA and Planning Commission, because it is you, council, that makes the appointments, and if you feel that some incumbent member has been on there too long, you simply don't reappoint him or her. You don't need to do that legislatively. And it has been pointed out, in the past, there have been times when you did not have adequate volunteers to fill the vacancies, and if you legislatively impose term limits, an incumbent may exhaust his allowable terms, and you have no one to replace him. You may have a seat that you can't fill. You painted yourself into that corner. So why not just let things stay as they are? If you feel an individual has been on a committee too long and he or she is up for reappointment and you have other volunteers, simply do not reappoint the incumbent. It's not hard. So I think you're trying to solve a problem that you're trying to find a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. The other thing I wanted to point out is back when the mayor gave his inauguration speech here, he said a couple things that concerned me. One of them was, you promised ethical government. And I about fell out of my chair when you said that, Mr. Mayor, because you're the only person on this panel I know of that has violated state ethics law and paid a substantial fine for doing so. Then you promised transparency, and apparently that hasn't happened either, because I've recently learned that the town administrator per the direction of council, has lowered the rental rates for the picnic sheds at the town park. Now, I'm troubled by that because, as Ms. Condon will attest, and Mr. Walker will, we recently the citizens got an increase in our franchise fee, which we pay on our utility bills, to cover increased costs that the town's going to see due to healthcare expenses. So there you are raising our taxes on one hand, but you're giving away revenue on the other. And the administrator tells me we already had great demand for those picnic sheds at the old higher rates. So, and many people that rent those don't even live in town. So I don't understand why you're increasing my taxes on one hand and you've got revenue potential on the other, and you're giving that away and reducing the revenue. That makes no sense to me at all. And there was no notice on this. It was on no agenda. There was no debate at council and no discussion and no vote. That's not transparency, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Glassmeyer.
Good evening, Council. My name is Guy Caskey. I'm the owner of Irmo Lot Company.
I beg your pardon?
My name is Guy Caskey. I'm the
thank
owner
you.
of Irmo Lot Company right down here on the corner.
Yeah.
I was only recently made aware of the plans to modify the intersection. We've obviously had a front row seat to some of the accidents in that intersection, so I'm looking forward to safety improvements. One thing I did want to address to council, and also while DOT is here, obviously there's 100 different ways to skin that cat and how you dissect that intersection, but one thing to consider, especially in light of some events that happened this morning, are some of the unintended consequences. So with the proximity of the police department right over here, the implementation, employment of emergency services could potentially be hindered by a physical obstruction. This morning there, I assume, was a false alarm of a bank robbery or something, and several police cruisers had to cross that intersection very quickly. So I don't know that maybe signage or a non-physical obstruction to prevent crossing that intersection may be another solution. Obviously, you guys have approved those things. I don't know how that progression actually happens, but that's something to consider, how you're going to employ emergency services from our corner of the block to the Friars Gate side. So something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good point.
Good afternoon. My name's Chris.
Who are you?
My name's Chris Caterly, and I live at 105 Tuscany Court. I'd like to double tap on what Guy said. I agree with everything that y'all want to do with that. I think that's great to lower collisions. The only thing I think you should consider, and Mayor Walker has already talked about the idea of Tahoes, but timing is of the essence, and for a police car to get across that, our Impalas are very low, and the only way that we would, if you want to pull the map up, the only way we could go across that, and there's 2 current police officers in here and 2 former police officers in here, and they can attest to this. If we have to turn left, like Guy said today, and I was one of the officers that went to that panic alarm, the only way you could do that with this here is to go suicide, which means drive opposite, which is a big safety issue. Or if we had a taller vehicle, we could ride across the median depending on how tall it was. So I just want to throw that in there, food for thought.
You saying take a left from Woodrow or from St. Andrews?
Well, no matter where you go, whether it's Woodrow or Carlisle or Child or Mowers, and the only way you can make a left if those are raised medians.
See, that's what I'm saying. You can't make that left there.
Are we allowed to ask, like?
Well, yeah, he's our police
No,
officer.
so I mean the SEDOT lady, if she's still here.
Oh,
by the way, I want to make sure I clarify. I'm speaking on behalf as a citizen, not representing the police department.
Although you want a Tahoe. Question.
I have a question. Is it possible, and I've seen this in some other areas where, like in the big cities, in a concrete median, that there could be 2 little divots or some sort of little divot cut out if the police have, if our department or emergency response departments have a concern with that. Is there an area directly across in that concrete median for a pass-through? I've seen it in other cities so police can get through a median or a divider.
Certainly, let us know those concerns, what path is most often. Carlisle is a little bit different because we've got that S in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
The Woodrow, I will double check with my maintenance folks as to how high that concrete would even be. It may be mountable. I don't know about an Impala. It sounds like a good time to get Tahoes for these guys.
Ah.
But no, we can certainly look at that. We'll figure out the height. And, another option, and this would certainly be something for y'all to consider or look at, are the delineators. Our maintenance guys don't always love them because they kind of get hit.
Yeah, those are the ones everybody
Towns
mows
don't like them
down.
because they look kind of gross.
Yeah.
But those are definitely drivable. Like law enforcement could just go right through them. So definitely, y'all consider, definitely give us some feedback, and we'll work through that process.
Okay.
That's good.
It sounds like there's options.
Please come to the microphone, sir. Thank you.
Greg Edmonds, I am one of the former police officers that Officer Caterly spoke about. Actually, at that very intersection, my wife, where I see where it's extending out now, the cement median will extend out so that it'll make it impossible to turn from St. Andrews right and then immediately left onto Woodrow Street. Is that correct?
Correct.
You won't be able to do that anymore. I think that's a good idea. My wife got waved on, as someone said earlier. Someone waved my wife on there one day, and she nearly got killed. The car got T-boned, totaled the car, and injured her because someone waved her on there. My question is how much thought has gone into the potential logjam if we indeed have a new coffee shop, famous for being on every corner in the world, going in near that intersection. I use the veterinary services there that are on the corner of Carlisle Street and Lake Mary Boulevard. It's hard to get in and out of there right now with just that business there.
Right.
When you put in the coffee shop, is that on Carlisle, the coffee shop, or is that the next street up? Is that on Child Street where that's going?
It's between Woodrow and Carlisle.
That's going to be a nightmare, guys. It's going to be a nightmare, people trying to get in and out of there, especially if it's like the one up on Broad River Road where people are circling the building every morning now to get their coffee.
Well,
I think there's going to be, so DOT had mentioned that there, when a business like that comes in, there is traffic impact and there's mitigation that will have to be developed at that time.
Okay.
Prior to the business being able to.
And the new fire station is that Child Street, that fire station is on there
Right.
as well, so that traffic. I'm gathering that the cement island will not go down as far as the fire trucks, so they don't have to go
No.
across that to go. Okay,
But again, my question was leaving Carlisle and getting the Kroger from Carlisle.
Sure.
You can't. You have to go all the way down.
Right, exactly.
To
And I see what
almost
you're
to
saying.
CVS
Yeah,
to turn around.
I agree with that.
And but if we can do it in phases, like she was saying, that they could possibly implement it in phases, I think we can look at the first part and then evaluate how to do the second part, if in fact we need to even do it.
Okay.
But yes, I appreciate your comments.
Thank you for the time.
Any other comments? And by the way, we're glad to have these comments, and we encourage more folks to come and make comments to us. We want to listen to you as much as possible.
Thank you, Mayor. My name's Art McLean, 137 Sonning Road. This has probably been already spoken to regarding the wastewater. I just wanted to bring up that the rate increase that they're proposing to me is still highway robbery. Because if you look at the rate increases that people typically get in a pay increase, it might be 2% a year. Lately, it's been 0%. So a rate increase of over 33% is preposterous. It's way outside of what the average person can afford. The second thing I wanted to bring up was I was intrigued with the CWP proposal that you have, legislation that you're looking at. About a month and a half ago, my daughter was involved in a road rage incident near my home. And the nice police officer that responded really did his job well. I'm remiss that I don't remember his name. I remember coming to talk to you, I believe, about the situation. And the sad part is that she was a bully victim in elementary school, which allowed us to start in a martial arts school at which I teach now. So anyway, that being said, I really wanted to find out if there's any talk or any way that our police officers can have a database that is hooked up to their laptops, so that when they make police stops, they're aware of if the individual has a CWP or not. That at least gives them the heads up of if there's a potential weapon in the car, and allows them to be able to make a better decision on how they approach. Most people that have CWPs, they're not going to. They're trying to get home too. But I carry a CWP as well, and the first thing, if a police officer stops me, the first thing I tell him is, I want you to go home, and I want to go home. I do have a weapon. And then that lets him know up front, this is where I'm at. I'm reaching for this. I'm very clear in the way I talk with him, because he wants to go home, or she wants to go home to see their family. I think, what was it, yesterday or the day before, we were talking about this gentleman this monster that killed these 2 police officers here in the state. I just think that it's wise if we can arm our police officers with a little bit more information, if we can get some type of database to them, so that when they run the license plate, they know what they have. They know what's potentially in that car, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, do we have that available to them?
Something in their tag reading, saying someone has a concealed weapon, that's above me.
Okay.
It doesn't happen currently, though. You have no.
Okay. Anybody else? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Seeing none, is there any discussion items? None. Is there a need for executive session? We don't have any on the agenda. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I'm so moved.
Mr. Kelly?
I second.
Mr. Sickinger, motion. Mr. Kelly, second.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Council meeting over.
Told you we'd never mess that up again.